The big question is it better to be single or to be in a relationship? Which one is going to make us happier for the long term? I used to believe that being single was the way that I needed to become happy in life, but recently I've arrived at a completely different understanding. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the process that I've been on in how I've arrived at this new understanding. I'm going to share what it is that I've arrived at, and hopefully along the way, you're able to rethink some of your own propositions about being single or being in a relationship, because after all, the grass is always greener. No matter what your situation is in life, no doubt if you're just like me, you're always thinking of what could be better, how things could be different. So hopefully in this video, I'll give you a few good ideas for how to think about your current situation in life and what's going to make you happy for the long term. So to explain how I got here, first I'm going to back up a little bit. A few years ago, I created a video about being 36, still single, and finally figuring out why. My big realization then was that the problem was not the women that I was dating or trying to be with. I always used to find problems in them and no one was ever quite good enough. My realization was that actually I was the problem. I was looking for the wrong thing. I wasn't showing up in the way that someone who really wanted to be in a relationship would show up. And I was attracting all of the same kinds of people in my life, and it was just never going to work out. So I ended up realizing that I needed to take responsibility for myself. I then went on a journey where I connected a few years previous to this with the shaman Buddha Iyande, and he's created an incredible set of teachings that he's been sharing with thousands of people all over the world. And I really went deep with these teachings. And there's a link in the description below where he's created his free relationships masterclass. And it's the teachings in this masterclass that help me understand the most important thing when it comes to relationships in life. And that is that the relationships that we have in our lives are a direct mirror of the relationship that we've got with ourselves. It took me on a huge journey to self-knowledge, to really understand what my values were deep down inside and what I needed from relationships in my life. And I understood that for me, freedom is paramount, a diversity of experiences, always trying new things. I always need adventure. I really enjoy my spirituality. I don't like talking about it so much or trying to define it in terms of concepts, but I love this seeking something beyond ourselves. And finally, personal growth is really important to me. So I've built this wonderful life. I mean, I'm really happy with everything that's going on, and I've experienced this through my single life, so I'm doing it all alone. And I even made the commitment that it was really important to stay single. The reason that I made this commitment perhaps hasn't been so well understood in the comments to that video, and also in the Telegram chat that I've got with some of the students to my online course, Developing Your Personal Power. They let me know that perhaps it wasn't as clear as it could have been. And in that video, the commitment to staying single is a reaction to the societal expectations, the societal standards around us that emphasize that we can only be happy when we're in a relationship. As though this is the gold standard through which we all need to judge ourselves, we need to work towards, and we can only become happy when we finally find true love. So I thought it was important to stand up to that, to break through the myth of the perfect person being out there, to claim being single as a wonderful path to living a perfectly fulfilling life. And the thing that really struck me was these ideas around soulmates and twin flames and so on. The implied ideas there, the underpinning ideas is that we're not whole and complete on our own, that somehow our spirits are cut in half and we're meant to wander around on this earth until we find our perfect match, and only then do we experience some sort of spiritual union. And I just felt like these ideas were really damaging at a fundamental level. So by making a commitment to staying single, really it's about making a commitment to yourself, about a commitment to self-empowerment. So that's been a really important part of my own journey, and I think for a lot of people, making that commitment to yourself is a really healthy thing to do. But now I'm on a trip to Australia. This is my home country. I've been living outside Australia for 16 years, and I'm visiting my parents in Cairns and Port Douglas because they're thinking of moving here. And I've arrived at a new realization, and that's what I want to share in this video. But first, I want to take you through some of the beautiful scenery that I've seen. I went scuba diving. I checked out the Great Barrier Reef. I've been in Cairns, a beautiful city with just a wonderful centre, a wonderful esplanade. Now I've just gone through the beach of Port Douglas, and it's just a really beautiful part of the world. And as I'm looking around and exploring these beautiful destinations, for example, on the trip to the Great Barrier Reef, there were so many couples there. And I really admired what the couples were doing. They were on an adventure together, experiencing something really profound in my view, this wonderful barrier reef, just a stunning part of the world. And they're sharing that with each other. And I'm here in Port Douglas and walking along the beach, and there's couples walking along. And I started to really reflect on being alone, on this journey that I'm on. And I'm also here with my parents who have been together for 42 years now. And I admire what they've managed to create. They've got 3 sons. We're a happy family. We get along really well. Me and my 2 brothers do business together. And I think that for them in their golden years, as life moves on, it's a really wonderful part of their life to have us to share all of this together. And then I think to myself, well, I'm 40 years old and the path ahead, there's a bit of a fork in the road. I can really continue to commit to being single, and I think that's a really viable, wonderful pathway forward. But then I've asked myself, what are the conditions under which I can really experience this self-empowerment, this happiness that's running through my vein, this wonderful journey of life? What are the conditions under which I could experience that in partnership with someone else? So I went and did a bit of research. I started looking around internet forums and reading the posts of people that have made the commitment to stay single, who are in their 50s and their 60s, so they're older than I am. And pretty much across the board, people are really happy with their decision. But then I realized that if I was going to go and search forums amongst people in their 50s and 60s who have had kids and have made that commitment, so many of them are also going to be really happy with the path that they've taken. And I realized that there's no simple answer to this. So what I realized when going through these forums and reading these accounts of people that are really happy with their lives is that it just doesn't matter whether you live your life being single, whether you live your life in a relationship, or whether you live your life moving between being single and being in a relationship. What really matters is the journey that we're on and the place of self-knowledge that we can arrive at and the way that we build our life around it. But I realized that I do need to make a very fundamental change. And the change comes from understanding what my values really are. So thanks to this relationships masterclass by the shaman Huda Yande, I did go on this self-journey where I figured out that the values that are really deep and meaningful to me are freedom, adventure, diversity of experience, spirituality, but only in my own way, and always growing as a human being. In a relationship, if I'm able to experience and live by those values alongside someone else, I think that that can be a very successful relationship. And in fact, I think there's a whole dimension of human experience that comes from forming these deeper connections. And I think that experiencing these values alongside someone else opens up a whole new dimension of human experience. And it's really important to live life with a sense of openness and a sense of possibility before us. So, is it better to be single or to be in a relationship? I think it's really important that we don't answer that questions for ourselves, but instead figure out what our values really are and do our best to live by them.